Okay.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started with tonight's September 10th City Council meeting, starting at 6 o'clock. And we will start the meeting by doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will do it tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll go ahead and do I need to do a roll call at the beginning of the meeting or anything? Or okay, good. We'll go ahead and start with public comments. We will limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. And then we will start with Pete. Pete Grove. Nice try.
All of us on the outside. So, your favorite subject, noise. As you know, noise, not just for me, but impacts the quality of life at many Moab residents. That was part of the impetus for the city rewrite and the county rewriting their respective noise ordinances. I know personally of about a half dozen people, those are just people that I know, who have left Moab, and noise by far is the #1 reason they've cited. And one thing to consider too is there's a very real cost for those people that relocate, especially if you own a home, whatever the median, cost of a home now is 500 grand or something. You're paying $30,000 just in a real estate commission just to relocate. So anyway, there's that impact on the quality of life. And I have spoken with both the police chief and assistant chief about doing noise level measurements and encourage the city, because at the time when Les Blomberg came and did the training for the sheriff's department, the police staff was underforced, but both Lex and James have expressed an interest at least in doing that training. And I have read the noise ordinance several times, and there was one provision that I totally overlooked. I happened to do it in an ad in the Sun News. And quoting from it, "No person shall operate a vehicle on a public roadway in such a manner that is plainly audible at a distance of 1,000 feet or more in any direction from the vehicle." It's like, oh wow. I mean, I can literally easily half a dozen times a day catch wind or hear of a vehicle is easily heard from 1,000 feet away. I think one time I came before you, I was by the entrance to the high school out by 4th East of South Maverick. I could hear a vehicle revving, and I would have estimated, I didn't have my decibel meter with me, probably it was about 70 decibels where I was standing, which extrapolating from that distance would put it on the order of over 90 decibels, well in excess. So anyway, I forgot there's another part. It says violators are guilty of a Class B misdemeanor, punishable by a maximum sentence of up to 6 months in jail and a maximum fine of $1,000. So there's certainly some incentive there if we start enforcing at least a plainly audible provision to be a disincentive for the noise. Anyway, once again, sorry to bend your ear about making noise, but it's definitely, well, I wake up at night sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning, we sleep with the windows open. And it's a vehicle that I'm pretty sure, based on the direction, it's more than 1,000 feet away. Anyway, okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Elena Rohr.
Awesome, thank you. My name is Helena Rohr, and I'm one of the citizens that got severely, or whose property got severely impacted by the flood from August 23, 2024. If you haven't been down there, Team Rubicon, which is a volunteer team that goes around the nation to disaster zones, scouted the area down there to see if it's a potential site for them to help clean up. And they said, unfortunately, it's outside of the scope of their work. So I was able to watch the emergency meeting that was uploaded to YouTube, and That meeting was immediately held after the flood, and I had a couple of concerns that came up after that I wanted to share with you guys. During that meeting, and it was really a surprising question, but it came up, who's responsible for the Powerhouse Dam? Now that dam has debris stuck on it since 2022. So it has been 2 years for that question to even pop up. And no one had an answer. 2 years afterwards, it was unclear whether it was the city, the county, BLM, or Rocky Mountain Power. I'm not sure if that has been clarified or not, but it made me realize that maybe out of sight is out of mind. So that's why I'm here tonight. I would like to, again, bring up attention to a section of the creek, 100 West to 500 West. That is where my neighbors and I have been severely impacted. So far, it has not been identified as any of the hotspots that the city needs to immediately address. And I honestly have no idea why. We're bottlenecking the creek down there. There are blockages in the creek that literally force the water towards our homes currently. They're forcing the water towards our homes. I have addressed the 100 West blockage, and I've addressed the bottlenecking, and very little has been done. Some of us are still in emergency mode, so not seeing anybody down there is really concerning. In 2022, I think the last flood that came was October 6th. So we have another month where we do not sleep very quietly. I had pointed out a drain pipe that ends in my neighbor's yard. I pointed that out to the city, but nothing has been done. It is still under investigation. It has been a month, and it's still under investigation of whose pipe that is, why it's ending on a private property. So again, the sense of emergency is lacking. I had a chat with Peter Nicholson, and in case you're wondering who that is, he was the past chair of the Agricultural Stabilization and Conservation Service, that is short ASCE, National Committee on Embankments, Slopes and Dams. He was the lead engineer of the ASCE Hurricane Katrina reconnaissance team. He was also head of the geotechnical engineering of the University of Hawaii, and he did affirm my findings of the bottlenecking, and that when we have blockages in one of our main drainages in town, that we have a severe drainage issue. We are dealing with a blocked drain, and no one seems to take any note of that. Also in that meeting, I heard that somebody said, well, the residents can, take up flood insurance. Now, first of all, we wouldn't need flood insurance to that extent because our dwellings were not in the flood zone. We had enough overflow. However, we've become a flood zone because of the blockage and the drainage issue. So when somebody suggests that we are taking up flood insurance, I find that a little bit, almost insulting. I did call in 2022 flood insurance. I looked at the policy and all the fine print. None of the damage that has been happening to my property right now would have even been covered by flood insurance. They are literally covering only homes that are basically ruined, that have engineering issues. Yeah. So at that point, I don't even feel safe being in my home anymore. So I would really suggest that the city takes responsibility to clean up their drainage rather than putting it on the citizens saying, oh yeah, you can also just take up flood insurance. And if it is too much for the city, please go to the state and ask for help.
Okay, thank you.
Much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Elizabeth Wright.
I just want to say I am going to be talking about a heavy topic, an emotional topic, but it is important to speak about it to reduce the stigma. And I feel it's kind of fitting that today is actually World Suicide Prevention Day. and the city is going to make a proclamation about Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month for September of 2024. All across the world, communities are gathering to hold space for loved ones lost to suicide. At 8 p.m., candles are lit in remembrance of those we lost and to signify that their light will forever shine in the hearts of those who knew them. September is also the national observance of Suicide Prevention Month. The Southeast Utah Health Department and the Hope Squad of Carbon, Emery, and Grand counties work diligently all year round to provide opportunities to unite those impacted by suicide and create a stigma-free approach to seeking help for mental health. It is important to recognize the work being done, but also to ask ourselves how we as a community can be better. By making this proclamation, we hope that more people will become acquainted with the resources in Moab, the state, and the nation. We are optimistic that the residents of Moab will participate in upcoming QPR trainings that will prepare them to act if someone they know is in crisis. QPR, by the way, stands for Question, Persuade, and Refer. Medical insurance and CPR certification are tools that we have just in case. QPR is another tool to have ready just in case. The Southeast Utah Health Department and the Hope Squad are committed to working closely with county and city officials, religious organizations, schools, and our senior population to spread more awareness and share resources such as 988, Live on Utah, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, and Four Corners Community Behavioral Health. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, number three on our agenda was department update, but Patrol Sergeant David Bowles was not feeling well, so we are going to put that off for another meeting, and so we will not be having a department update tonight. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. 4.1 on the agenda is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month with the city proclamation in regards to suicide prevention. 4.2 is approval of the minutes, and 4.3 is approval of bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $804,663.11. Can I get anyone for discussion or want a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda. Do we want to read the proclamation first or before we vote?
I can read the proclamation if you the proclamation is a proclamation by the mayor and the city council of the city of Moab proclaiming September 24th to be Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. Whereas the state of Utah has consistently been in top 10 states for suicide deaths since 2012, currently 9th in the nation, and whereas Carbon, Emery, and Grand counties often lead the state of Utah in suicide deaths per capita, and whereas people who lose a loved one in suicide are at a 30% higher risk of ending their lives to suicide as a learned coping mechanism and learned behaviors. And whereas the risk of suicide can be reduced through awareness, training, proper educational resources, and treatment. And whereas, according to the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention Statistics, suicide is the second leading cause of death amongst Utahns aged 10 through 24, the second leading cause of death amongst ages 25 to 34, second for ages 35 to 44, fifth for ages 45 to 54, ninth for ages 55 to 64, and 18 for ages 65 and older. And whereas suicide affects everyone, suicide is everyone's business. And suicide is one of the most preventable deaths that can be avoided by 1, learning the warning signs of depression and suicidal ideation, knowing how and when to ask about one's suicidal thoughts, being aware of life-saving measures, and familiarizing ourselves with resources available locally, such as Four Corners Community Behavioral Health, and statewide, such as Live on Utah, and nationwide, such as calling or texting 988 to Suicide Crisis Lifeline. Now, therefore, I, Moab City Mayor Pro Tem Jason Taylor, on this 10th day of September, 2024, do hereby proclaim September 24th to be Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. in Moab City and encourage all residents of Moab City to recognize how serious suicide is and the steps that we can take to protect those around us from this preventable tragedy, one with devastating generational and community-wide side effects.
So yeah, I will put forth the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I could second that.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye. Okay, consent agenda is approved. And I'd like to present this proclamation. Elizabeth, where is that? Yeah.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
All right. Next, we're moving on to general business. This is Cory. It's consideration of adoption of resolution 22-2024, resolution approving a phasing amendment, approve Lionsback Resort Master Plan Development for the property located at 1353 Sandflats Road, Moab, Utah.
All right. Well, good evening, council. I have a presentation for you. All righty. So what we're looking at tonight is a amendment to the approved MPD plan for Lionsback Resort, specific to the phasing components of their approved preliminary uses. Quick overview of the project itself, located in our sensitive area resort zone, the SAR zone. Currently under ownership of Sitla, and then transitioning into development owned areas and properties, and then also into platted ownership subdivisions of that resort area. MPDs are a unique structure that combines land use approvals as well as subdivision mechanisms to generate an overall resort-like final product. And what we're looking at tonight specifically is to amend the phasing of a sales and property management use aspect that would have been housed in that hotel phasing component of the original preliminary approval into a temporary location within the phase 1 approved plan, specifically lot 2, until the later hotel phase can accommodate the preliminarily approved use. And a slight step away from the background is that following the approved agenda being noticed, we did have some amendments come in from our legal counsel, from Nathan, to more completely fill in both the agenda summary and in the resolution, not in a sense of amending what was being proposed either by the applicant or even being discussed as far as findings from staff, but is more completely file out the findings of process for how in which we're going to approve this. The reason for that specificity is that within the MPD, like I mentioned, it's a standalone approval process where we're not using our typical site plan process or even a subdivision process. It's an all-encompassing ordinance, and in that has its own processes and procedures that within the amendment provisions has some unrefined areas because it did not account for any, myriad of possible amendments that were being had. So typically they file into 2 sections, either a minor amendment or a major. As you look at that language, which was included in the packet, is those areas can tend to overlap to a degree, mostly focused around the idea of major design realignments or significant elements. Those are or can be kind of tricky aspects to diagnose when we're running a process for the amendments. So the staff felt it really aligned nicely within what would be a phasing amendment and also qualifying as a minor amendment. But given that discrepancy, we are running it through as a minor amendment going through a major process, which has its own string. It's not just major standalone. It's minor being converted to major, which is a staff's discretion to take it to you as the language authority. So that's what you'll see in a lot of those red lines that were sent out following the publishing of the packet. It was sent to City Council. I am going to show those on screen for the record, and hopefully we can accommodate those into this approval as an update to the record of the approval. I have for summer additional exhibits that we can approve in connection with this so that we have it on record to add into signature approvals. So with that sidestep, we can come back to that, but within the background, the preliminary approval for Lions Back was approved in 2008. And then flashing forward to more recent, the phase 1 final MPD and final plat was approved in 2021. Following that approval, engaging in construction and advancing additional planning for phase 2, it was determined that some of these aspects of the resort hotel elements, in particular the sales and property management office, so to speak, they were finding necessary in phase 1, but did not have a way to accommodate that appropriately for them. So they're alternative, and this is a utilized technique, I think, certainly across Utah and I think across the West as well, in mostly subdivisions, but like we said, not that far away from what we're looking at here, is to temporarily locate that sales component in one of the existing units, like a show house, for lack of a better term. So they're going to be locating that in their lot 2, one of their CO'd homes, called Casitas up there, in the garage space. So what we're doing is re-navigating where these approved phasing elements are located as the construction phasing progresses. Specifically to the process, this is taken from what the legal red line shows. So obviously there's a lot of words on the screen, but trying to show it so it's complete to the record, but does not really deviate from what the original agenda summary provided. It just dives a little bit further into the specific provisions in that MPD as to why we're navigating it through a minor that is now coming to city council in this particular fashion. We're choosing to do this not only because this amendment is unique, it's not specifically profiled how to handle something like this, but also just the nature of this project, wanting to ensure that it's going through what is as complete of a process as we can. We're not trying to add additional process to the project, obviously, but certainly wanting it to feel adequately reviewed. This was the narrative provided by the applicants, again, speaking specifically to what it is exactly they're doing and why they're doing it and how they're trying to locate that. I won't speak for them in that case, but let the narrative speak for itself. It was included in the packet, so I'll go ahead and continue to move forward. Specific to phasing, this was an element extracted from the updated phase 1 SIA subdivision improvements agreement. So as we're redesigning the phasing elements of the uses, there was an approved SIA for phase 1. We're taking an additional first amendment to that SIA to accommodate for this. So again, we're, of all these many pieces of the MPD, ensuring that we're approving all the aspects together. So a lot of moving parts to move what is kind of a pretty limited and temporary aspect, but to have it fully approved in coverage. This may have jumped around. Okay. So what we're looking at here, this is the Lions Back Resort final MPD phase 1 phasing plan, overall phasing plan. This was not included in the packet, but I will be adding this to some of our documents that I would request are added as an additional exhibit. This was the exhibit because these were packaged together that was shared. Both of these are identifying within the lots, identifying the property that's going to house the garage sale space. Within the building plans, we're not in an approval stage yet, but we are working through the permitting process to see what it is or will take to convert this space, even temporarily, to a fully compliant occupancy requirement through the building code for commercial use. That's the piece that is probably atypically done. Most places just allow people to throw a computer and a laptop in the garage. But as this is going to be operating kind of until that hotel phasing is complete, we want to ensure up until that point it's operating at an appropriate occupancy. This is the floor plan that also is including that building permit set, so we can see the occupancy change from an R3 to a B business space, and then architectural square supplying all those improvements, ADA bathroom, ADA access, all those types of elements. Motion fairly straightforward. What I might add to this is following some of the review here that we have on. If I actually might switch screens here, if you'll bear with me. And as we're moving through these, we do have Lisa Watts Baskin available representing Smith Harvington that provided some of these updates. So if you have specific questions on the language or elements that we're going to be reviewing for the change. Okay. Here we are. So this is what I'm proposing is an Exhibit 10, and it's really just a red line of Exhibit 1. This is the Word document version to identify the red line. I've supplied also the clean draft. That will be the true exhibit that's being approved. But this is a way to briefly show what it is that's being amended. The resolution does show a little bit more additional language, so to speak, but it isn't anything that wasn't included in what we just reviewed on the screen, agenda summary, more or less specifically profiling our findings directly from the code. You probably reviewed in the resolution, it was fairly concise. But without the legal drafting, I didn't feel fully open to putting in specifics without Nathan's additional approval, which he's now giving. So we'll go ahead and stop sharing this one and move to the agenda summary. Again, thanks. Thanks for your patience, everyone. All right, this is the agenda summary. Typically, we wouldn't redline an agenda summary, but again, for the record, we thought it was appropriate to add those same language provisions into the agenda summary. So for the full record, it's fully complete, that it's consistent throughout the full approval. So again, referencing the code sections in which we're approaching this minor, now moving to major review with the Land Use Authority as City Council. Stop sharing there. A few more slides, bear with me, everybody. There we go. All righty. I believe this is where we left off. So jumping into, for the record, displaying it if it'll, there we go. Show this is the clean draft agenda summary. I'm scrolling through it pretty quick, but obviously without the red lines, this is what we're going to be approving as Exhibit 9. We have Exhibit 10, which will be the city resolution with the clean draft edits there. And then this is Exhibit 11, which is that additional phasing plan from phase 1 in addition to the phased plat, which we did include. So that is the full presentation. Those are all the materials. I think we have a complete record. I might offer it up to Lisa if I did miss anything, but other than that, I'll turn it over to council for any questions.
Do we have any questions?
I don't have a question. I just appreciate your thoughtfulness and thoroughness in bringing this before us. And yeah, thanks, Corey.
Thanks so much.
So I didn't have a chance to read the new draft that you sent out this afternoon in another meeting. Does this have an expiration, or like when the hotel gets built, will they have to then move the sales office to the hotel, or can this just stay until, or will it stay until like all the units are sold?
The direction we're going in that, so the answer is yes to half of your question.
Okay.
This is a temporary action, and if I'm missing the first half of the question, please fill me back in. But the two parts of your question now,
So if it's temporary, so once the hotel gets built, will they at that time be required to move the sales office to the hotel, or can they stay where they're at now until all the units are sold within the subdivision or ward?
Right. And that was the first piece, was is there a time frame?
Yeah.
The developer actually offered a sunset element to this. We actually, both at his project team and the city, didn't feel that a sunset was necessary given that we're going through this full process. in addition to that, it's gonna be really hard to forecast when that hotel phase A is gonna be approved and also be constructed. That putting a sunset, we'd be bringing this back to you
Right.
occasionally to review through that sunset class. So we decided to not include a hard sunset deadline, but within the subdivision improvements agreement, it is profiled that this is a temporary phasing, construction phasing element, that once the hotel phase is complete and that space is then provided, this space will convert back to that space. So unless they were to come back to council to permanently adjust the plan to have it permanently located there, it will default into the hotel phase. I think that covers both
Okay, yes, it does.
sides of
Yeah,
your question.
yes. Yeah, no, that was a good question. Yeah, it seems like this is pretty common, at least through Utah from what I've seen.
It was actually in St. George visiting
Yeah.
my sister and I, the new townhome development, and almost exactly the same layout where they replaced the garage with kind of window storefront. So it's fairly typical. It's just within our system, and especially with an MPD. I think if this were a standard subdivision, it might have not been as complex. But given this MPD structure, it's any elements of use change obviously have to be contemplated. Even if it feels minor, it also has these big repercussions. So appreciate entertaining what can be kind of conceived as normal.
Normal.
This is pretty normal.
Cool. Well, I'll entertain a motion of
Or if you put it back up on.
Sure, I will. It's on the agenda summary, both drafts, and then I'll put it back up on the screen. Gosh, you might find it faster than I can at this point.
I'm not
We have a lot of tabs. So this is the originally proposed motion. Simple. What I request is that you additionally move to include exhibits 9, 10, and 11 to accommodate the updated record.
I can make a motion. I move that Moab City Council approve resolution 22-2024. A resolution approving the phasing amendment to the approved Lions Back Resort Master Plan Development for property located at 1353 Sand Flats Road, Moab, Utah 84532, to include exhibits
9, 10, and 11.
9, 10, and 11.
Can you get a second?
I can second that.
Okay, second, Colin. Connie, any discussion?
No.
Colin, any discussion? Luke?
Does that work?
I don't have anything either, so I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes unanimously.
Thank you, council.
My PTSD kind of went down.
Good work, Corey.
Okay, next we will. That's it for the business portion of the meeting, and next we'll go to city manager updates.
Okay, good evening, council. Just a few things to mention. The mayor and I I was there at least for a brief minute at Recovery Day last week at Swanee Park, which is a really nice event. There was yes, it was a really well attended event. I appreciated being there. As you all probably know, the Red Rock Arts Festival is coming up at the end of this month. So we're really looking forward to that. That's on the 27th to the 29th of September. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that at the next meeting as well. We are preparing for our independent auditors to come into town in a week and a half, and we'll be spending a couple of days with them. So happy to see that on a better schedule than we have seen recently. So once that happens, then we'll be able to present you with the final end of year report for fiscal 24, fiscal 24. Yeah. And then just a couple of other things. We are starting the process to figure out what to do with how to spend the money that you all allocated for the downtown area garbage and recycling enclosures. It's a more complicated endeavor than maybe you would think, because we have to deal with things like figuring out how to make sure they accommodate the bins properly, and they're, they look good, but also are very sturdy and, can handle the conditions out there and the high volume of traffic. So we got a cross-departmental team working on that. Happy to report. And last, we will be coming back to you to talk about the utility rebate program here within the next couple of months, and hope to have that in place no later than the end of this year for sure. So Marcy's been working on that with me, and I think we'll have a good program there for you coming up. So those are really my updates.
Nice, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Council reports. Sorry. Colin, let's move our way down this way, make it easy.
Jason and I left the last meeting early to attend a outdoor recreation summit in Bryce, and it was a very well attended, great substance, really great networking. It's a pleasure to be in that beautiful area of Utah. The 29th of August and also the 3rd of September, I've been involved in a city manager interview process. And then the 30th of September, we had our UMTRA Technical Advisory Committee, which is now being called the Atlas Park Committee, where we discussed an MOU between the city and the county and a project coordinator position that is right now trying to be filled. And then today I had a trail mix meeting where we, as is always the case lately, we've been just discussing flood damage to the recreational infrastructure around town, and also the volunteer opportunities that'll be associated with that cleanup. And then I also want to mention 2 upcoming events. First, this weekend, we have the Day of Service to commemorate the victims of 9/11. And this is happening at the Grand County High School. And so from 8 to 9 o'clock on Saturday, we've got a pancake breakfast where all the proceeds, is a recommended donation of $10, and all the proceeds will go to the Grand County EMS. They've given us a wish list of needs that we hope to fill. And then from 9 to noon, we'll be splitting up into groups and addressing some maintenance concerns or needs at the school district with different schools. And so hope to see all of you there. And then coming up later this month on the 30th of September, with the Wish for Wheels program, we'll be donating a bicycle to every 2nd grader in town. Doug, thanks for the great article in the TI. But also looking for volunteers to help assemble the bikes and hand them off to children with helmets attached to them. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you. Connie.
Okay, August 29th, I attended a special meeting for the Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District. It was a closed meeting to discuss the sale of real property. Obviously, I can't say much because it was a closed meeting, but I can allay any fears or rumors or innuendo that Canyonlands Care Center is for sale, being sold, contemplating being sold. This was, with any government process, there is red tape, and the healthcare district and the care center have a consortium with a couple of other nursing homes within the state that enables them to receive state and federal funds, but those state and federal funds have to go through either a governmental or a quasi-governmental agency, which the healthcare district is. So it's just a mechanism for them to receive those funds, and one of those care centers is negotiating a sale. So it's not our care center, but it was a formality that we had to approve that our chair signed the documents. I don't think I said anything I shouldn't have. On September 2nd, we had a closed meeting for our city council, which I attended. And I also participated in the city manager interviews with Colin, the mayor, and some of the staff. September 5th, I just attended a meeting with Moab Healthcare Foundation members, Beth Logan and Carrie McKay, along with our Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District Chair, Dan Cook. The foundation has been doing some fundraising for the care center. They have been raising funds for the bus that was purchased to take the seniors on outings last year, and they've deemed it the Magic Bus. And The foundation donated $50,000 earlier in the year to that program to keep the bus well-maintained and running and all that, that wasn't necessarily in the care center's budget. And they also gave Dan and I another check for $8,000 more plus towards that program. Their goal was to raise $100,000. They wanted to do it by June, the end of June, but realized that that was a little ambitious and didn't think that anybody on the district board would care if they got it by the end of the year. And I think that was pretty much a foregone conclusion. So there will be some other fundraising opportunities for the care center kind of on the horizon. And also, the mayor's not here, but the mayor and our chair, Dan Cook, and Andy Smith presented the healthcare sales tax proposal to the county commission. The county commission at their last meeting, and they had negotiated that ahead of time, and we just decided as both entities that last year, the special service district got 53% of that tax and EMS got 47. We just decided on an even 50-50 split, and they haven't voted on it, but everybody that went said it was pretty well received. That's all I have.
Luke,
I actually don't have very much this week. All of my stuff that got canceled just lined up at the end of this week. So next week I'll have a busier update. Other than that, I attended the closed meeting last Tuesday or 2 Tuesdays.
all right. For me, I ended, like Colin said, I attended the Utah Outdoor Summit, which was pretty good. And I'm glad I was able to attend that. And it was interesting and encouraging to hear how the state or the governor's office is really putting a big effort into active transportation and trails, and really kind of beefing up kind of the outdoor experience for Utahns, which is what we're known for in Utah. So I was really glad I was able to attend that. Also, last week I attended the Utah League of Cities and Towns convention in Salt Lake. It was, 2 days that were pretty packed. Most of the things that I kind of focused on were going to work sessions talking about, affordable housing. Still, we're not the only ones that are dealing with it. But no one's been able to crack the code, I guess, if you will, of affordable housing. I kind of talked to him about some of the things that we had been doing here, such as our AH ordinance, and some other things. And everybody was like, wow, that's pretty neat that you guys are trying these different things and seeing if it's working, as well as, working other sessions had to do with like working with developers and who pays for infrastructure costs, because infrastructure costs are getting so expensive that cities and towns are literally don't have the funds to help put in infrastructure for a lot of subdivisions. It's just so expensive. When you start figuring roads, traffic lights, everything that's underground, that everybody's having concerns with how these things get paid for. I got to hang out with Lisa a little bit. We hung out there and a couple sessions in the resort, talking about resort towns and some of the issues that resort towns face. And so that was great. Yesterday I attended an airport board meeting. The airport has some things going on, such as they're putting in a new gate. They're trying to work on leases and insurance requirements and some things like that with the airport. Things have been down. Enplanements have been down this year at the airport, which I think we've all kind of heard that through the grapevine and seen. And then they're working on some projects, such as a solar project that they're trying to get off the ground up at the airport. Today I also had a travel council meeting where we talked and we met with Love Communications, who handles marketing for Grand County. And they talked about where they were going to be kind of kind of the travel trends that they're seeing. There was someone in the meeting from the state office, and tourism across the country is down, you know, from California to Virginia, you know, wherever, you know, everybody's seeing a decline in tourism. And you know, and however, you know, it's attributed to a lot of different things, the economy. They're saying a lot of people who can travel, you know, this is the year where more Americans have traveled to Europe this year than like any other year before, you know, and so that's kind of had an effect on, you know, on our numbers here and stuff. And then we also talked about travel trends, and this month is looking up for a lot of the hoteliers and properties in town, and then where they're going to kind of market for next year, and where some of those marketing dollars are going, try to get that set up with present a budget to the Grand County Commission to see what they can do with that. And that's basically that's all I have for meetings the last couple of weeks, which that's about it. So anybody else have anything else? Okay.
Think you have the record, Jason.
We got a debate.
That's right.
Yeah, we will now be having arm wrestling matches for the rest of the meeting. To go from 7 until 11. I'd like to be done by 11. That's all right.
Which band is gonna play?
Yeah. Yeah, with that I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Wait a second. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody that came. We appreciate it.
Good job. Didn't burn down the building.
Was that?
You didn't burn down the building.
No,